The ideas expressed in City Club forums are those of the speakers and not of the City Club of Cleveland, IdeaStream Public Media, or their sponsors. Production and distribution of City Club forums on IdeaStream Public Media are made possible by PNC and the United Black Fund of Greater Cleveland, Incorporated.
Buenas tardes and welcome to the City Club of Cleveland, where we're devoted to creating conversations of consequence that help democracy thrive. It is Wednesday, April 10th, and I am Marcia Moreno, founder and president of Amor Consulting and the creator of the 100 Plus Latinos Cleveland Must Know. I am honored to introduce today's forum, which is the Margaret W. Wong Endowed Forum of Foreign-Born Individuals of Distinction. Can you tell my accent? 10 years ago, leaders at the Latino Donor Collaborative began to recognize the emergence of a new mainstream economy, powered by U.S. Latino consumers, entrepreneurs, and workers. This Latino power economy was without a doubt making an outsized contribution to the nation's economic growth. Yet, this positive growth seen in the data was not reflected in a larger, inaccurate narrative about Latino contributions. Instead, the perpetuation of harmful stereotypes led to harmful laws and policies that negatively impacted Latino businesses and communities. Our speaker today, Ana Valdez, is the president and CEO of the Latino Donor Collaborative. She's an American marketing, media, research, and political expert and thought leader with 30 years of experience in business, media, and the corporate world. Born and raised in Mexico City, Ana has studied and worked in Mexico, Europe, and the United States, and since 1997 has lived in Los Angeles. Through her work, Ana recognizes the urgency of producing reputable data and statistics that showcase the invaluable contributions of American Latinos to the U.S. economy, business, and entertainment sectors. In today's political climate, fearful rhetoric and a barrage of deficit narratives have attempted to drive and derail the conversation on Latino excellence. Today, we will take a look at the data and research and understand the true contributions of Latinos in America that benefit the nation and every one of us. Now, members and friends of the City Club of Cleveland, please join me in welcoming Ana Valdez.
I'm really excited, but more importantly, thank you everybody for being here. This is an honor for me. I'm lucky to speak in a lot of different venues, but speaking in Cleveland and getting to know more about the city, which is very impressive. It's very diverse. I'm really excited to get to know more. I hope this is not the last time that I'm here. And also, I am very excited about showing and sharing with you the numbers of the impact that Latinos are having. In the United States, of course, most of our numbers, but we also have some numbers about Ohio. So excited about sharing the impact. We always, and you're going to see through my presentation, we approach these numbers as a growth opportunity. So when people say, oh, you know a lot of Latino numbers, I say, no, I know a lot of growth numbers. And that's why sometimes, people don't understand why we're listed as a business nonprofit, and it is a business nonprofit. What I love about these numbers is that you're going to see opportunities for every American. And that's how it should be, right? I mean, growth should be shared, and growth is organic. And with that, I'm going to start with some of the numbers. First, I'm going to tell you a little bit about who we are so that you understand why we do this. And Marcia was very good at explaining that, 10 years ago, we created this think tank. And we are completely focused on economic numbers of the contributions of Latinos in the United States. There are many nonprofits, as in every other community, that take care of, like education and healthcare and those kind of issues for a community, and those are important. But nobody was talking about the economic impact that Latinos were having in this country. And as you know, there was a lot of rhetoric about, Latinos being takers or Latinos not paying taxes or all these things. And the truth is that even undocumented Latinos pay taxes. And so that is important to know, because then you understand how much they're contributing to the economy, and how much they can contribute even more if you understand who they are. So let me start by talking about this graphic it's one of my favorites, because it's about population. And as you can see, here is an evolution of the population of the United States. And Hispanics are the red group. And you can see how much they are growing. And this is important because the growth in the last part of the 20th century came through population. And you can see it here, right? A lot of it came from immigration. Some of it came from people having more children than other communities. But the bulk of it came from immigration. And you can see it here. But in this presentation, I'm going to tell you where the growth comes from now, and it's not from immigration. I don't know if you're familiar with immigration numbers, but the majority of immigration today doesn't come from Latin America. In the case, for example, of Mexico, immigration is negative. There are more Mexicans leaving the country than Mexicans coming into the country. So the growth that you're going to see here, mostly today in the last 20 years, in the 21st century, is coming from other aspects of the Latino community. So I told you we are very unique. We are a business nonprofit, a business think tank. And again, because as I said, this information is good for every American, the people that mostly use our numbers are decision makers in this country. So corporations, politicians, other resource allocators that want to know where the growth is coming from, policy makers, right? Because there is, assignment of resources, there is assignment of taxes. I mean, all that. So this is the most of the people that use our information. So let's start by who are Latinos. Latinos today are the largest community after the Anglo community. So Latinos are 20% of the population today. And in some states, and we're going to see it in the presentation, Latinos are actually majority. So California, Texas, New Mexico, those states are actually Latino majority. There are more Latinos than Anglos in those states. And that's important to know, because then you understand why so much growth is coming from Latinos. The interesting thing, that, as I told you before, is that 25% of all the young people in America are Latinos. And if I told you that 20% of the total of Americans are Latinos, but 25% of them are young people, you can imagine the youth within the United States, US Latinos. So I'm going to give you a piece of data that is always, people get impressed. So according to the US Census, the age most populated in the Latino community is 12 years old. That's the age most populated. The age most populated in the Anglo community is 58 years old. So that's the first aspect of how Latinos are bringing so much growth to this country, just by pure growth in youth, right? I'm going to give you another number about this. 30% of all the births in the United States are Latino. So imagine 18 years from now, 30% of all the new workforce will be Latino. But more importantly, I'll tell you, well, I'm actually going ahead because I get so excited about these numbers. But one of the things, so with these numbers, this is interesting because, as I said before, immigration from Latin American countries has actually gone down tremendously. Most immigration today comes from Asian countries, from the Middle East, from Africa, but not from Latinos. And so 94, all these are numbers from the census. 94% of all those young people, the 25% that I mentioned, were born here. Their first language is English. They are citizens, and they have a little bit of both worlds, right? Their parents are still, some of them, undocumented, so they know the life of their parents. They've been advocating for them. They've been translating for them. They're completely bilingual, but at the same time, they're going to college because their parents have built a great life for them. They have earned a seat on a lot of tables for them. So that's why also this growth of in contributions economically has been booming. I'm going to start with one of our reports. I forgot to say at the beginning that we, as a think tank, produce reports constantly. Till today, we've produced 68 different reports, all in the economy. So, we do tech reports, we do media reports, engineering reports, entrepreneurship reports, etc. So this is one of our very original reports, the Latino GDP. And it came about because our chairman and founder, Sol Trujillo, used to lead telecommunication companies around the world. Actually, he led 3 of the largest telecom communication companies in the world. And so he had operations in every continent. And once we were brainstorming, and he said, okay, so how can we actually quantify and how attractive is the growth in the Latino community, right, for all Americans? And so he said, the way I used to decide to invest in a country or not was through their GDP, number one, and through the trend of the GDP. If they had a really good GDP, especially per capita, that was a good, opportunity. But if it was actually growing, that was a better opportunity. So we said we need to find the GDP of Latinos in this country. And we started working really hard. We designed the report. We worked with different economists, UCLA, Arizona State University, Notre Dame University. And till today, we've produced 8 of those reports annually. So, one every year, of course, for 8 years. And so this I'm going to share with you is the latest Latino GDP report. And I have other numbers, but right now I'm going to tell you. So, if Latinos in the United States, remember that I'm talking only about United States Latinos. If Latinos in the United States were a country, well, first of all, they are contributing today with $3.6 trillion to the GDP of the United States. And that's a pretty important number. But to quantify it, I'm going to tell you that, I'll tell you about the projections in a second. But if Latinos with $3.76 trillion were an economy by themselves, they would be the 5th largest economy in the world. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of the level of productivity. And again, of the level of opportunity, right? And again, going back to our chairman on the trends. So according to Arizona State University, the projection is that in the next 10 years, to be the 5th largest economy, Latinos today are only behind the United States overall, China, Germany, and Japan. So Latinos would be the 5th largest economy. But in the next 10 years, they will actually surpass Japan and Germany to become the number 3rd. And that is an economy within your economy here, right? So the big problem of Europe, as we know, is lack of workforce, is older age, it's, lack of innovation. In the United States, we have a community that is actually bringing in that for all of us to enjoy automatically. We have this actually, the percentage of growth of Latinos in the United States economically it's better than the percentage of the United States overall of growth. So that's why this is an opportunity. It's a train that we all want to ride, right? Because, we want to grow, and this is where the growth is coming from. So this is what I was going to tell you, that we're talking again about what my boss, the chairman, said, trends, right? So Latinos grow faster than even bigger countries like India, which, India has a very fast growing birth rate, but Latinos grow faster than that. And what's important, for example, going back to the number of 3.7, making it the 5th largest economy in the world, just think about this. India is 1.4 billion people. Latinos are 65 million people. 5% of the population of India is producing a larger GDP in the United States. So that's why these numbers are so kind of surprising in so many ways, but also so attractive, because you want to be part of it, right? Imagine that on this side is the myth. Latinos are poor, they're just recent immigrants, they're takers, they're not paying taxes, they're taking our rights, they're taking our resources, they're lazy. On the other hand, here, you have the reality. They are actually very hardworking. They are very family-oriented. They're God-fearing. They have a huge motivation to give their kids a better life. Education is the number one reason why they vote for any candidate. And they're growing at this and with all these numbers. If you are a company, or imagine I'm a company looking at these two versions, right? And I believe this one. In Spanish, we say, I lose my train. The train is gone, right? But if you actually forget about the myth, forget about the, all this rhetoric, right? And you actually look at the numbers from the census, and from Department of Labor and from Department of Commerce and all these other resources that we get our numbers from, then you know where the growth is coming from. And then you can be, and I don't know who's familiar with consumer products here, but you can be T-Mobile instead of Verizon. Or you can be Modelo instead of Budweiser, right? And I can go on and on and on. So that's the thing, right? Your neighbor, Procter & Gamble in Cincinnati, they have to know, they have to act on the fact that 30% of babies in this country are Latino, because if they don't, then Scott Paper, imagine what's going to happen, right? So that's what I'm trying to kind of guide you into how these numbers are applied, because it's not only nice to know, and I'm going to go to sleep feeling really important, but it's like really, really, really important that everybody knows these numbers. I have a lot. I'm kind of running out of time because I love talking about this. But we have all of our reports are actually, we distribute them for free. We're very lucky. We have a very generous board of directors that allows us to do this, and they pay for it. And you can go to our website, latinodonorcollaborative.org, and then get all of these numbers. All of our reports are distributed for free. I'm going to talk more about it right now still, but just FYI, if you see any of the graphics, they're all on our website. And of course, I can give them to you. This is GDP. This is purchasing power, which is even bigger than the GDP of Latinos, because of course our economy is a consumption economy, and Latinos are consuming a lot. And by the way, interesting note, and women will love this one. Sorry, I have to say it. So Latinas in a household make 87% of all the decision makers. Even even the big ones like a home, even the car of the husband, like, I'm sorry, but yes. And then, but guess what? According to Kantar, Anglos is 62. So my point is that's another important data that you really need to know when you're talking about engaging the buyers, right? Engaging your clients, engaging your audiences, right? So that's important. But anyway, that was just a nice, fun fact to know. Again, we have the numbers of GDP by state. And I would love to actually share right now some numbers for Ohio, because I was very surprised of the numbers. And this is my apologies, it's very small. But again, I'm going to send it to Cynthia so that she can share it. But over here we have all the states, but I actually isolated Ohio, Michigan, and Wisconsin, and Indiana, just because they're neighbors, and it's kind of, you can compare a little bit easier. And then down in the second part, I actually extracted the states that have more or less the same percentage of population of Latinos. And there's so many conclusions that you can get here, because you have percentage of Latino population, percentage of GDP that those people are contributing. But the bottom line of this graphic, and you'll get it, is that Ohio has the highest contribution of GDP of Latinos from all these states. And so you guys are doing something really well for them. Yeah, definitely. And it's disproportionate, and it's very small, but I'm going to tell you that there are $28.7 billion annually being contributed by Latinos in GDP. And all the other states that are more or less in the same percentage of population, which is like 4%, are much less. 9, 11, 13, 1, and 2 for South Dakota, of course. But my point is, you guys are on the right track. And of course, you're also probably the kind of Latinos that you're getting are, I don't know if it's more migrating than immigrants. So that probably has a lot to do with it. Like somebody just told me they came from Florida, and so that's also a different kind of Latino migration in some ways. But it is very interesting. You should go to the report and see specific numbers for different states that you may be doing business with. So there you go. So anyway, again, we have all the. I'm not going to go into this, but manufacturing, public administration, retail, and trade, those are the biggest right now. But we do a tech report every year, and what we're finding is that Latinos, again, as I said, because the parents, right, provided these opportunities for the kids. I'm going to give you one number. We do a report annually with the Society of Latino Engineers, SHIP. I don't know if you know it, but some of you may know it. And the reason why we started doing it is because we continue doing it, is that on the first report, we found that in 2010, just so that you get an idea of this youth, in 2010, 4% of all engineering students were Latino in 2010. In 2021, almost 16% were Latino. So it's that group of kids, right, the 25% of the youth that is actually going to college and is going into every industry. And we thought the study about engineering was very representative, because it's not philosophy, and I'm not diminishing philosophy, but people used to think that Latinos were kind of in certain kind of careers, and the truth is it's not. Engineering is a big deal, and technology for Latinos is very important. One of the things that we see constantly in a lot of different reports is that Latinos are early adopters of technology, always. And I'm sure that some of you that know these numbers know the importance of technology for us. Well, we already said population growth. I told you a lot about it. But then again, workforce, right? And I also told you about it. So this is a number that always fascinates me. And I spoke yesterday in New York at this company that does payroll. And when I asked them, I love doing this report with you, tell me why. And they said, and they quoted this number, According to the Department of Labor, US Department of Labor, 78% of all the new workforce in the next 10 years will come from the Latino community. So the first one is population. The second one is workforce, right? Like reasons why Latinos are growing so much. The third one I also talked about is education advancement. Latinos, even though, of course, the Asian community still goes much more to college than Latinos, Latinos have the fastest growing rate. And so they're graduating in record numbers. And there's a lot of information here about how they are advancing, especially STEM. A fourth reason of the growth is entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship was also a huge surprise for us. My boss, before I actually joined the Latino Donor Collaborative, my boss put together a group of donors to create an entrepreneurship report with Stanford about 14 years ago. And because he knew instinctively that Latinos were entrepreneurs, but he didn't know exactly how much. Long story short, that report has continued being done every year. You know, Marcia, you've used it many times. Every year varies, but a minimum of 50% of all the new businesses in the United States are founded by Latinos. And Latinas, yes, exactly. Latinos and Latinas, yes, exactly. And that is the fourth, well, there are many reasons, but my fourth reason to explain the growth, right? Entrepreneurship, we see, one of the things that we continue, unfortunately, seeing in the Latino community is that we don't get the access. This part of the rhetoric, this part of the preconceived ideas, this part of the subconscious bias of who Latinos are, unfortunately prevent us many times from having the access. So, but guess what? There's entrepreneurship. And so when they don't get into a corporation, after college, they start a business. When they don't grow into a corporation because, there's other bias, they start a business. When they retire, right, because they had a great career, thank you so much, they start a business. And that is another one of the treasures of Latinos. And a lot of times, when that big growth via immigration happened at the end of last century, when people questioned why, people say, well, they're immigrants. And immigrants are naturally more risk takers. They are more innovative in so many ways. They're creative. They left everything behind. So it's people that have risked a lot. So they're not really that afraid of it. But the truth is that that trend in entrepreneurship continues, even though the community is less and less and less made out of immigrants. So this is just another trait, right, that Latinos have. So yet again, there are numbers that talk about the percentage and about how much, how many people they employ, etc. And then comes another one of the aspects of wealth creation for Latinos and productivity for Latinos, which is for Latinos, home ownership is one of the most important parts of upward mobility, right? So buying a house to your kids, having 2 or 3 houses and rent them, it's the most traditional. And again, sometimes it's lack of access to, to credit, to banks, to VCs, to all these things. Investment in home ownership is one of the most important parts. And one of our board members is the head of it's called National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Agents. And he always tells this anecdote, which I love, because he's like, a real estate agent that takes care of the Latino community has to be very specific, because you have to be, first of all, patient, because the guy doesn't come in only, by himself or with a wife. It's like the abuelita, the abuelito, the grandparents, the friend, the kids, and of course, it's like a big party, right, to visit a house, first of all. Then they sometimes buy the house as a team too. So you talk about, all kinds of, arrangements and different kind of financial, formulas, et cetera, et cetera. But another one of our board members, and some of you may know her, her name is Patty Arvielo. She has this incredible American dream story. About 30 years ago, she was a real estate agent, recently divorced, single mom. Because she was in transition, she was living in her car. And she was a real estate agent that knew that even though, she saw her community having the means to buy, she also saw the community not getting the credit. So she started a mortgage company. And today, she's a self-made billionaire just from getting business first from all those Latinos that were credit ready, but were not getting credit from the traditional means. And now she's actually going into the African American community and doing the same for the community and continues growing. And so that's somebody that knows that there was an opportunity, acted on it, didn't, stay saying, no, banks say that they're not trustworthy. No, she didn't. She knew that they were. And that's how she started. So yet again, another aspect of this this growth. Sorry. Okay, sorry. So Latino home ownerships. Now, going back to the Latino youth, which is really incredible. Oh my God, I'm super late. I'm so sorry. You should have stopped me. But anyway, I want to tell you a little bit about. I'm going to tell you a little bit about and I'm going to finish with this. I promise. So, why is there such a humongous gap between all these numbers that I told you, which are completely official numbers, and the perception of who Latinos are? And we found that it's media. Because media creates millions and billions of impressions in our minds without us even knowing, right? Driving to work, there are billboards and there are bus stop things and there are and the news and and social media and all these things. And so we have actually a report that measures the percentage of Latinos in English language, film and shows, and also the kind of portrayals. And I'm going to finish with some data that is devastating in my opinion, which is that even though Latinos are 20% of the population, 25% of the youth, they only have 3% of roles in media, English media. And the worst part is that the majority of that 3% is, and you're gonna identify the shows: Narcos, Mayans MC, Sicario. I'm like all the what's the name of Miss Bala. I'm like all these horrendous shows, and there are such few shows with Latinos with these stories. I am sure that we can make a show of Marcia's, and of your story, and of your story, and of your story, and it'll be a fantastic show. Because when actually those shows have come up, there have been huge, huge ratings, right? So there are very few. So The Last of Us, and it's still a little tragic, but The Last of Us, Lincoln Lawyer, Argos. I mean, those stories are worth telling. So there's no reason why those stories are not being told. And unfortunately, not being being invisible, first of all, and when we're very barely visible, it's negative, creates that lack of understanding of the reality of who Latinos are, and therefore a lack of capacity of using that opportunity to grow. So this is not bad only for Latinos. This is bad for every American. And we are in a campaign to spread that word. We're in a campaign for everybody to know these numbers. We're in a campaign for our kids, Latino kids, to know these numbers so that they know and be proud of who they are, right? So that they understand that their parents created this economy because these kids are young, so it was not them. Their parents, some of them undocumented, created this economy, and they have a place on every table because of those sacrifices of their parents. So thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here.
Okay, we are about to begin the audience Q&A for our live stream audience. I'm Cynthia Connolly, Director of Programming here at the City Club, and we are joined by Ana Valdez, President and CEO of the Latino Donor Collaborative. We welcome questions from everyone, City Club members, guests, students, as well as those joining via our live stream at cityclub.org. If you'd like to text a question for Ana, please text it to 330-541-5794, and our City Club staff will try our best to work it into the program. May we have our first question?
We're going to start with one of those text questions now. Employee resource groups across the country are being disbanded due to the current president's executive orders. They can be the best advocates for representation and visibility for professionals and the communities in which they belong. How has or will this impact the work of the Latino Donor Collaborative?
Thank you for that question, because that's very important. I have to say, and I'm not showing off, that it hasn't impacted a thing. Because for us, this is not a DEI concept. This is not a philanthropic issue. This is not a, please be nice to me issue. This is, you want to be T-Mobile or do you want to be Verizon issue, right? So this is where the growth is coming from. We could be, yesterday, one of my board members said on a call, we could be purple and have 5 heads. It doesn't matter. It's not about a race. It's about where the growth is coming from, and the growth is coming from this cohort. That's it. There's no other way out, right? Without this cohort, we would have the same problems as Europe is having, which is, low birth rate, no replacement, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. No workforce. That's the most important part. No workforce, right? So thank you. That question is very important, and I think that if you approach anything you do based on the growth opportunity, there's no way that this is not a mainstream economic issue.
Just a question. Based on your presentation, I guess a lot of our politicians are receiving their information through the media. I like stories, and I would like to know if you have received reactions from any politician from your reports, especially from the sector that is not convinced about our collaborations, and I would like to hear that.
That's a really great question, too. So first of all, I joke, and it's true, by the way, but I say it as a joke because we're a nonprofit, so we can't be political. But I joke that both presidential candidates used our numbers extensively. One of them saying, look how good I am for you because, look how much you're growing, so taking credit of our growth. And the other one saying, hey, imagine how much more we're going to grow if we push you, right? So it's so interesting how politicians are great at spinning every information. They use it, which is good for me. Honestly, it doesn't matter. I'm excited that they use it. But you're right. There's that part that is the rhetoric, that is the insisting and that we're takers. One of the things I just spoke to a New York Times reporter that said, how do you see this? And she was telling me, I hear a lot of people saying, Latinos are takers. They just come here. They're lazy. They take all these resources. And they also take our jobs. And so I was like, okay, how can they be lazy and takers, but they're taking your jobs? You can't be that, right? I mean, impossible. So that's how you have to confront them, with their own thing, right? It's like, you can't be both, decide. And so to you, it's a game of words constantly with these people. I am going to share something. We did a fly-in 2 weeks ago into Washington, D.C., and we were there for 3 days talking to mostly Republicans, because they are in charge at this point. Not because we are Republican in any way, but we wanted to impact. It was called, we actually called it was non-political, non-partisan. It was Protecting American Workforce is the name of our campaign. And we talked to every single, at least the people that I talked to, and I spoke to a lot of different Congress and Senate people, and they said, we know the numbers. We know the numbers. We know that it's not a good idea. It's a little bit of what's happening today with the tariffs, right? I mean, people were like, yeah, tariffs, yeah, deportations. But when you go to the business leaders, they're like, no, please don't. I beg you. I mean, who's going to buy my products? Who's going to do my work? Who's going to, the farmers and, meat packers and, Target, Costco. I mean, we saw what's happening, and I don't have to tell you because I'm sure you're very informed, but, we've seen what's happening right now, right? The Target CEO saying, please, President, stop. They're not coming to buy my products, and I'm having a real hard time, right? And so, unfortunately, I think the numbers are not, they know the numbers, but there is a rhetoric that was used during the campaign where there has to be some delivery. And we hope that that delivery is very small. And we hope that there are reverses like the one that we saw today, right? It's like suddenly, from 50 something, we're going to 10. Mexico is negotiating incredibly well. Nobody notices. There's absolutely no increase for Mexico. I mean, it's, it's just politics. What can I tell you? But the numbers are numbers. And I tell you, people know these numbers. People that are making decisions. Yeah, sure.
Welcome. Welcome to Cleveland, and thank you, Marcia, for having this amazing asset, Hispanic asset or Latina here in Cleveland. You mentioned the high percentage of children, and I'm thinking, having had promoted the Voto Latino before, here in Cleveland, we do at Esperanza have graduated over 2,000 students and given over $2 million since 1983 in scholarships. 99% of these students have graduated from college here in Cleveland. So what do you recommend and how we can promote that Voto Latino so they can also be part of this amazing society?
Well, first of all, we saw a tremendous participation and increase in, especially of those people turning 18, right, in the last 4 years. So we saw it. And when people tell me, and we also saw a surge, a very small, but the press made a big deal out of the surge on the Republican side. And when people, again, I can't be partisan, right? But when people tell me, and I got a lot, we did a report actually on the vote. And it was very popular, and you probably saw it. And everything we predicted happened. And what happened was that the kids, their parents never voted. The parents didn't know what a party is. Of this, kids that come from undocumented parents, from underserved immigrants, they voted for, who approached them. And the truth is that both parties made efforts in certain places and they got them. The most important lesson of it is not who they voted from in 2024. The most important lesson is beware, because they were the swing vote. So from now on, you better not take them for granted, because those kids are learning. And if they voted spontaneously the first time, they're going to be educated, and they're seeing things happening right now. And when they come back, and again, even though Latinos may be 15% of the vote, they're the swing vote, because the swing vote is so small. So you can, with them, you can win. Without them, you can't win. So there's not one single answer to your question, but we're getting there, and they are getting there, and parties better take notice.
Wow. Wow, I'm just so motivated. Thank you so much for your inspiring talk. So I'm Jimmy Van Doren from the Ohio Minority Supplier Development Council, but I'm also a Latino entrepreneur. And I had no idea that Latinos did 50% of new businesses. But what I do know is that we only have access to 2% of institutional capital.
Yes.
So understanding that entrepreneurship is both an engine for regional economic growth, but also an engine for generational wealth, what would you say to angel investors and institutional investors to get them to move that percentage from 2%
Yeah.
to the 30% where it should be?
Yeah, that's
you.
really the $64,000 dollars question,
Right?
because you're so right. 3 years ago, and you probably got that number from that report. 3 years ago, 2 years ago, we did a report with Bain Consulting, and that's exactly what showed that 2%. When the Anglo community, I don't remember the number, but I think it was like 45% of the times get credit by banks, by VCs, by angel investors, by et cetera. Latinos only get 2%. And that's one of the reasons why they don't grow more. And actually what they did actually for us, Bain Consulting said, if Latinos got credit, well, credit-ready Latinos, because not every application is the same, but if if the same the same percentage of acceptance of giving investment. Sorry, if Latinos got funding at the same rate as whites when they are ready, the GDP would grow $2 trillion. So, and imagine right now, we know China is going fast, behind our tails, right? So imagine those two. And again, and Latinos are credit ready. I mean, Patti Arvielo, our board member, showed it with $1 billion company, right? So I think it's education. It's education. We work a lot with banks. We're very lucky to, that. We worked with Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Capital One. I mean, we Bank of America, and they are trying to change the algorithms, for example, because what we found is that it's in the algorithm. They were created, 40 years ago, and they need to be updated, they need to be changed, and we're working with them because you're right, they don't get enough credit as they should.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Hi, I'm going to share another text question that came into us. With all that's happening in the world in our current situation, how do you see Latinas growing in the agricultural field, as to growing in business to create a circular economy, as well as growing with nutritional food? Sometimes we see this as a negative field, but how do we see it growing in our communities?
That's a really good question. I don't know, and then it sounds to me like they were talking about organic. It sounds to me like it's like specialized kind of agricultural specialty products or something like that. It sounds to me, because I don't think she meant farm workers, right? Yeah, I don't know, but I would say there is one of the studies that we're doing in the next months is wealth creation and upward mobility, because there are markets where Latinos are now pretty, impacting, like luxury cars and, bags and brands, French brands, et cetera, that are not aware of this. So I think it's the same in specialty companies, in case of organic products, in case of luxury self-care products, et cetera, they're incurring into it. And that's when you talked about when the last person that asked questions talked about credit. There you go. That's one of the places where we don't have access enough, and it's always frustrating for me because I don't have the answer. Because how do you convince the bank that they have to change immediately the algorithm? And we're trying, and we do, and we will, but it's harder. What is much easier is what she's doing, if I'm assuming that she's talking about specialty self-care products, agriculture. That you can do. That's the entrepreneurship that nobody can stop us with, right? And so I think we have to keep going, keep doing it, and keep showing, be examples, and just, grow and help others grow. Because, by the way, when you get the numbers from the entrepreneurship report, you'll see that Latinos, interesting enough, they almost more than half of the people that they employed in their businesses are non-Latinos. So that's important.
Thank you so much for being here and for your time and expertise. I am a Mexican queer immigrant who has 2 masters and a PhD. I'm in the public administration sector, and I'm a business owner with a business that is turning 10 this year.
Thank you. You're the perfect
gracias.
example of these numbers. Thank you. I mean, overachiever or what? I mean,
Así es. Sí. Un poquito de trauma, add some trauma to that,
I'm
and firstborn
sure.
as well.
I'm
That helps
sure.
too with it. Pero esa es la pregunta, ¿no? Una persona así, ¿qué hago yo? What is my charge with a person like me so that I can elevate? I'm deeply committed to elevating our community's visibility, our power. What is my charge?
So my charge for you and for everybody actually is act on these numbers. Well, first of all, as Latinas, put them on your DNA and talk about them in the supermarket, in the soccer game of the kids, everywhere, because this has to be known. Like, you're actually illuminating people by it, right? I mean, these are numbers that are important. And if people choose to say, that's not true, Latinos are all losers, well, then it's their problem, right? But you're actually, and I say this because I live in California, and sometimes you hear people like that, like, I'm not sure. This is what I hate the most, when they tell me, no, but you're different. No, I'm not different. I'm not. I mean, you are a perfect example. Like, all the Latinos here are perfect example. We are a demo that is humongous, and people are missing it, right? So use these numbers to illuminate everything you do. If you, in your business, tell them, I'm part of a cohort that is the fastest growing. You really are in a very good place when you're making business with me, because I'm going to bring you into my growth train. And use it and be proud of it and say it and tell, if you have kids, tell it to your kids, tell it to your partners, everybody, right? So that, for me, the numbers are illuminating in that sense of, it takes you away from the, oh my God, I need to be super quiet, I don't want to make noise, I want to not be different, I need to assimilate. Yes, we all need to assimilate, but we need to be proud of the good things that we have. And this is a really good thing that we have, right? And share it with others. So my call to action always is, one, know the numbers. Second is, have a voice. There's nothing wrong with showing off these numbers. There's nothing wrong with telling people that these numbers are good. You're not putting anybody down. By saying these numbers, you're not putting anybody down. We love working with everybody. We actually, Latinos, are the race that intermarries the most, that has more diverse friends. By the way, this is Nielsen and Kantar and everybody, right? It's really, we are. So we're not putting anybody down. We're actually just showing where the growth is coming from. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And can we please give a round of applause as well to Marcia Moreno for making this possible, bringing Anna to Cleveland. We love having partners like Marcia here at the City Club. And forums like this one are made possible thanks to generous support from individuals like you. You can learn more about how to become a guardian of free speech at cityclub.org. Today's forum is the Margaret W. Wong Endowed Forum on Foreign-Born Individuals of Distinction. Months before her birth, Ms. Wong's Chinese parents fled the political repression and civil war caused by the communist takeover in China. Because of her personal experiences obtaining citizenship under U.S. immigration law, Ms. Wong recognized the need for guidance and opened her own law practice. Today, Margaret W. Wong and Associates LLC is a nationally and internationally renowned law firm lauded for its knowledge on immigration and nationality law. We're grateful for the support of City Club member Margaret Wong to make this annual forum possible. And thank you to our sisters here with us today. The City Club would also like to welcome the students joining us from Hardeen for Life at Lincoln West High School, or Lincoln West School of Global Studies. Thank you to our students. And we'd like to welcome guests at the tables hosted by Amora Consulting, the Cleveland Foundation, Global Cleveland, Margaret W. Wong and Associates, and the Northeast Ohio Hispanic Center for Economic Development. Thank you all for being here. Coming up, yes, please. Coming up next week at the City Club, we will have an interesting left-right program pairing. On Monday, April 14th, Silicon Valley Congressman Ro Khanna will offer a vision for what he's calling economic patriotism, and a way forward for the Democratic Party. Then on Thursday, April 17th, State Senate Finance Committee Chair Jerry Serino will talk about the state budget, Senate Bill 1, and other GOP priorities. Tickets are available for these and other forums at cityclub.org, and that brings us to the end of today's forum. Thank you once again to Ana Valdez. I'm Cynthia Connolly, and this forum is now adjourned.
For information on upcoming speakers or for podcasts of the City Club, go to cityclub.org.
The ideas expressed in City Club forums are those of the speakers and not of the City Club of Cleveland, IdeaStream Public Media, or their sponsors. Production and distribution of City Club forums on IdeaStream Public Media are made possible by PNC and the United Black Fund of Greater Cleveland, Incorporated.